All right, it's that time of the video again where we get really excited about what we're about to make. And I have a bit of an announcement here. I'm gonna be partaking in an art show alongside my twin brother, who's a photographer, or somewhat of a photographer. It's more of a hobby, but he's into it. So these Lightbox frames are gonna be for him to show off his photography. Now this video is gonna be slightly different to my other videos because I actually have made this before. I made this a few years ago now, but it is a wooden light box with a magnetic frame, and you're able to change over the prints that are inside it. So it was somewhat inspired by those cheap Kmart rolling sort of ticker photo album things that you can get. And I was like, they look so ugly. Why not make something that's interchangeable that also looks quite nice? So I made this. So I'm going to be making 4 of these, one A4, one A3, and then one that spans the width of those 2 light boxes. And then I'm also going to be making another one, which is going to be an open and closed sign, so you can interchange open and closed. So when the show is open, it'll read open. When it's closed, it'll read closed. Not that anyone's going to be able to get in there when it's closed, but I think it's just a cool concept. So we're going to be doing that. Now, as I go through making the process of this, I'll explain how this came about, and also just give you a brief history on just me and where I've come from and what I've done and what I do. And yeah, so I'll just give you a backstory of me because, I don't know, why not? Also, one last bit of housekeeping. We got our first collaboration. How exciting. So recently in my old interchangeable mask, I lost the filter in it, and I was about to buy a new one when this company reached out to me. They're called Basecamp Mask, and they said, hey, we love what you're doing. And I said, thank you. And they said, we want to send you a mask. And I said, funnily enough, my other one just broke. That would be perfect. So they sent me this, and I'll be wearing it throughout the video, and I'll give my honest feedback at the end. There's also going to be a link down below, so if you like what you see and if I like what I see, I'll recommend it, and you know, you can go from there. First impressions are that it's quite good. I like that it's got this strap on the back. My old one only had the neck strap, so it felt like that it was kind of coming down a fair bit. Anyway, let's actually get stuck into making something because I know that's why you came to watch the video. All right, so we've got a bunch of leftover walnut from our previous projects. And I'm gonna make as much as I can out of this because it's starting to pile up a bit. So I know there's worse problems in the world than piling walnut up, but yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So this story is probably best told from the very beginning. So this is Dad. And about 30 years ago, he started a signage business and named it TaylorMade Signs. It has since had a name change and is now known as Decently Exposed. But during its time as TaylorMade Signs, they mainly produced vehicle wraps. And for a solid 10-15 years, that was the main source of income for the company. And at the time, Dad had about 10 employees, but every now and then he'd be lucky enough to have 12 employees. During school holidays, me and Will would go down and help him out. We were a lot older than we are in that photo, but we would strip cars, clean up the place, basically just do the shit jobs. But I say all this to say, we've been around the business for a while now. All right, it really felt like that I had more wood than this, but yeah, this is all we got. So this is gonna make 4 light boxes. So these taller bits are gonna be the base frame, which is this bit here. And then these narrower bits are gonna make up the interchangeable frame, which is this bit. So next up, we're gonna head to the router table to route the grooves so that these 2 pieces can nest together. So as we were coming to the end of our schooling, simultaneously Dad was scaling back the business. And in 2016, when we'd finally graduated, Dad was actually the only employee that was left. So when me and Will left school, we didn't exactly know what we wanted to do, so we thought, why not go and work for Dad? All right, so we've routed all of the channels for our profiles. So this is how the profiles come together. There'll be glass glued to this bit here, so that groove there is for the glass to nest in. And then this groove in here is for the opal acrylic. So this is opal acrylic. It's just acrylic and it diffuses light. So on this box here, if you weren't to diffuse it, these spotlights would all show up as individual spots on the print itself. So you put the opal acrylic in like this and it diffuses the light and spreads the light out behind the print. So you would have seen me score the frame piece with the saw. And the reason I did that is because if I didn't, I would have gotten chip out on sort of the edge, this edge here. So you'll see when I was routing it that a lot of it chipped out, and if I hadn't have scored it, then that's what the edge of this would have looked like. But instead we actually get a nice clean sharp edge here as a result of scoring it. Now you might be wondering why I didn't score the other routing profiles that I did. The reason being is because when these 2 bits come together, you can't get your fingers in. So if you're gonna change over the print, it's gonna make it very hard to actually get the magnetic frame off the front. So what we'll have to do is we'll round over both the top and the bottom edge of where these two bits meet, which gives us enough space in there for our fingernails to get in to be able to pry the magnetic frame off. So you see here, there's a slight gap. That's kind of just the fingernail gap, so you can get your fingers in there and actually pry the frame off. So that being said, where there's minor chip out on this, the round over bit's just gonna get rid of that. So next step here is we're gonna glue the parts together. So we're gonna miter all the edges and then fold it up and make a nice little picture frame.
So we started working full time for Dad, and at that time vehicle wrapping had become quite saturated. So we pivoted and started focusing more on gallery spaces. And we developed quite a good relationship with the NGV. And through that, when designers would leave the NGV, they would go elsewhere, and if they needed exhibition graphics done, they would contact us. So we sort of branched out through various galleries in Victoria that way.
It's crazy how simple just using tape to clamp up these miter joints is, and it works really effectively and really well. However, for the smaller frames, they're a bit more fragile and they're a bit flimsier just using the tape. So I recently got these and I haven't used them yet, but I think this is a perfect chance to do it. So these are little miter clamps and they just give like pinching pressure on the corner of the miter. So I'll show you how they work, but I think these are gonna do the trick. All right, so the tape does a pretty good job, but notice how when I push down on here, there's a bit of play. So to eliminate that, we get one of these miter clamps and the spreader that comes with it, and we spread it open and we pinch that corner together when it's flush. And then that little gap at the top's closed up a bit and all the play's gone. So I'll do that for all 4 corners.
So then there's Mum. She's a bit of a ceramicist and she's done various markets and art shows over the years, one of which is the Inner West Art Fair. And through Mum partaking in that and our experience in exhibition graphics, we offered to do the graphics for the show for the last 2 years. So as a result, Julia, who runs it, offered me and Will a space of our own to do a collaborative art show together.
Okay, so we're all rough sanded. You would have seen me just put in these oak splines. Reason we did that is for structural integrity firstly. This makes it so much stronger, the actual picture frame itself. Although we don't really need it because we're about to put glass in the frame, that's going to also provide structural integrity too. So they're mostly decoration. But they do offer support right now when I'm moving this thing around and it's not got glass in it. So when I first started making these boxes years ago, I thought glass was really expensive. I remember my brother telling me, he was like, it's gonna be $250 a sheet for A4. And I thought he meant $250. And I was like, look, if glass costs that much, glass costs that much. And he goes, no, $2.50. And I was like, that makes a little bit more sense. So this sheet here is actually only $6 and that's gonna cover us for all 4 of the light boxes that we're making. So this sheet of glass obviously isn't cut to size for each one of them, so I'm gonna have to cut each piece out of this sheet. Now I'm sure there's plenty of you out there who don't actually know how to cut glass, so I'll show you because it's actually quite interesting. All right, so the way to cut glass is using one of these things. It's a glass cutter, believe it or not. So it's a glass cutter, it looks like this. It's actually a really cool design. It just looks like a pen basically. At the top of it, there's this little wheel and it scores the glass as you roll it across it. Obviously you have to apply pressure, but that's what that does. So this glass is only really thin. It doesn't take too much for it to be able to be snapped. So it takes 1 score and then we snap it. I'll show you how we do that in a sec. So that's all it takes. The weight of the glass by itself should be enough to snap this, so we'll see. Oh, there we go. And bang, I'll give you a closer look. Now, another way you can break this glass is just by placing something underneath it, like a pencil, and then just leaning only lightly. It really doesn't take much pressure at all to be able to do that. So that's our first piece done, ready to go in the frame, like so. Not that you can tell because it's glass. So next up, we're gluing the glass to the frame. So I like to use epoxy for this. They come with these nozzles, which are pre-mixing nozzles, which typically are really shit. Because you only get to use them once and then they harden up in the pre-mixed tube thing, so they're a bit pointless. But they're good for this circumstance because they've got a tiny little like nozzle head at the top there, which is perfect for getting into that groove.
So that brings us to today, where Will, myself and our sister Imogen now run the business. Dad has somewhat retired, down to a farm about 2 hours away, alongside Mum of course. And as a business, we still specialise in exhibition graphics. Whether it's walls, floors or ceilings, if you can put a sticker on it, we can do it. And through my woodwork, we're now starting to incorporate more build projects into the business. So that just gives us another avenue to potentially pivot to if exhibition graphics ever become too saturated. So that's a little background on me. I hope you enjoyed it, but I'll get out of here now and I'll let you enjoy the rest of the video.
All right, we've had an absolute stinker here. So we've glued all the magnets in, but they're the wrong way. So it's actually created a cool effect where it's actually hovering above the bottom frame, which is cool, but on the wall, that's not very safe. So as we do with any major mistake that we make, we turn it into a feature. So I think what we're gonna have to do is drill in from the reverse side and push this magnet out, because I can't think of a way to actually be able to pry that out without damaging the frame. And then I think we're gonna plug that hole with like an oak plug, just to sort of maintain the contrast. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We are officially magnetic. Nice. So next up here, we are going to round over all of the edges with a 3mm round over, so a really shallow, subtle round over. We're also going to round over the gap in between here just to sort of pronounce it a little bit more so it gets rid of any unevenness that shows up. So that's what we're doing. All right, so we're rounded. This is the first one I did, the small one. This is going to be the open and close sign. And I rounded everything, so all corners, all edges, all everything, and it kind of looks like an Etch-a-Sketch. So from there I decided, you know what, let's not round everything. So on the next couple, or on the main ones, I left the edges, these edges here sharp, and only rounded the top and the gap in between. So everything else is still square. So when you look at it face on, it's still square and looks less like an Etch-a-Sketch. So next up here, we've got some walnut plywood, and these will be for the backs of these boxes. So we'll get to cutting those down, we'll route a little channel in there for the cord to be able to poke through, and then we'll glue them in place. All right, so we're all sanded, we're ready for oil, so we'll get stuck into that. I've had a fair crack with this thing. I think the game changer with it is the head strap. It just really secures it on your head, compared to some of the other reusable mask options out there, which only have like the neck strap, which is really good to sort of just chuck on when you need it, but it just never feels like that it's really secure on your head. So big fan of this. Yeah, I like it. So I'll leave a link down below if you're interested in getting one. Hit that link, it'll take you to it. And yeah, we'll get into oiling now, and then the lighting and electrical after that, and we're done. Interchangeable light box complete. I filmed a whole outro at the art fair. I'll show you a few clips of that because it shows all three nested together. But I was too shy and I was very softly spoken, so when I edited it, it didn't really come together how I wanted. So we're doing this. So this is it. I'll show you how it works. So you need one of these. It is a backlit print. So it's printed on backlit material. You need a special sort of material and you need a special sort of printer to do it. We have both. So to change this over, pop the magnetic frame off, take the previous print out, put the new print in, put the magnetic frame on. That easy. I think I actually prefer this as a daytime light box. It gives a really soft glow
but it kind of tricks your eye. You don't really know that it's a light box during the day, whereas at night it's obviously a light box. It's a cool application. It's cool to be able to change prints over. If you have landscape images like this, or you have family photos or whatever, it's a really nice way to be able to display that and then also change them when you feel like it. So I like it, hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.